Welcome back to Untamed Social. You're in for a treat today, a true treat, because if there's anybody that is untamed on our team, it is Anna and I. Am I wrong?
You're 100% right there.
I'm like, when I saw the schedule of the podcast lineup and it was like Laney and Anna, I was like, this is a bad choice.
To have us be the first go on our own in the sea.
Right. Like, in the sea, we should not be allowed by ourselves without somebody, like, supervising, for sure.
This is a test run to see if we can do this off leash, you know?
Yeah. You're exactly right. Because God knows we have no etiquette. Speaking of etiquette, today we're talking about social media etiquette. And I just don't know, again, if we're the ones to be talking about this. And if it's appropriate to do certain things or not. I mean, when you think of social media etiquette, what does that even mean to you?
I think it's about how, like, now in the digital world, there's fully different social norms for, like, what's appropriate and what isn't for your behavior online, for your behavior in the real world, but then, like, you're filming it to be online and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you bring up, like, we're not the best to people, because our social medias ourselves are so private. We, like, are not.
What?
Like, well, okay, besides your TikTok.
Yeah. Not my TikTok. Everything else, though, it's like lockdown.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, I have, like, maybe 5 public TikTok, like, posts up, but then my Instagram's, like, lockdown, private. And so I think it's funny.
I'm
that,
not
like,
gonna lie. When I tried to friend you on Instagram, I thought to myself, I wonder if she'll even accept. Like, if she'll even give me permission to look at her content.
I'm very picky about it. I'm just like a paranoid person. Like, the other day I Googled my name and so many pictures of my face from Stella stuff came up. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
like,
don't ever do that.
I learned it the hard way.
Sometimes when I Google my name, I'll find like blogs that have written about my TikTok content, which is wild. Yeah, you should look at it sometime and you're going to be like, wait, what?
That's crazy.
It's really, and most of the time it's like moms or teachers who hate me and they're like saying how I'm a horrible human being, and it's really crazy.
You should comment like, thanks. XOXO.
Love you, girl.
Thank you.
But yeah, I feel like there's like unwritten rules to social media, right? That everybody should know, but not everybody knows. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why everybody isn't on the same page. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, everyone has differing opinions based on, like, how they use their social media. And so if you have friends who have, like, a substantially bigger following than you, or, like, a substantially smaller, they might be abiding by different rules, and you can get into, like, sort of weird, awkward social situations because of that.
Yeah. And, you know, rules do apply differently to different people. I think about, like, I try to be, like, funny, and, like, my content isn't, like, crazy, but my family follows me, whatever. If I say one thing that's, like, out of line for them, they immediately are texting, calling me. They're like, this was too far. You went too far. My cousin, she gets so wild on Instagram and her stories that I'm like, is she not getting reprimanded the way that I do? Or are people just like, no, that's her. That's her. We'll accept it.
Well, and also, like, I don't know what they're teaching children in school nowadays about, like, digital footprint, but, like, when I was a kid, we used to have, like, sit-down level assemblies of being like, I know it doesn't seem like it, the internet is forever. Like, be super mindful of what you put on there, because, like, it will be there forever. And I feel like people, specifically, like, my age, or, like, maybe 1 or 2 years older, get that and are a lot more private with their social media. And then I see people either, like, 10 years older or 10 years younger than me doing, like, the complete opposite and just, like, burying it all on social media.
I mean, you have to think, like, my generation, Instagram came when I was, like, in college. Yeah. So for us, it was like, no holds barred. You do whatever it is that you want. There's zero repercussions for you. You just put it all out there for sure. So what are some things that you feel like should be, like, standard social media etiquette that people don't abide by?
I feel like the first one is, like, if you're going to post a picture, this actually like came up in my friend group the other day. Like if you're gonna post a picture with someone else, they have to like know of it beforehand, or like have at least seen the photo and been okay with it. Especially if you have like a public thing and it's maybe a picture of like just them. Like I have a friend who runs an account, and it's kind of like a photography account of pictures she takes when we're like all out on the town. And she sent us this message the other day being like, by the way, I hope you guys all know that like you have veto power for any of the pictures I take. I won't post them on social media if you don't want to. And I was like, oh, I wonder if this came up with someone. Like, I wonder if some people, you know, don't want certain things on there, or some people don't care.
Right.
Whereas like to me,
that's
like if
actually
I'm
like
going
a
to post,
good friend.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like if I was going to post a picture of someone on like my main full feed post Instagram, I would make sure that everyone sort of knew the photo, or it was like automatically just a good photo. Like I would never post a photo of someone doing something crazy and like never run it past them. You know?
I mean, I didn't think of that, but that's actually very courteous. I mean, the only time I think about it is like kids. Like kids should never be posted without the parents' permission. But like if it's a friend of mine or a cousin or whatever, I'm never asking permission. I failed that social media etiquette. So don't ever take a picture with me, Anna.
And I gotta be ready and prepared.
Right, exactly. Like if you don't like it of yourself, too bad. That's really good though. But one thing that I will say though, is that like, you know what I can't stand is when people tag brands or influencers or other people in videos, or it doesn't even matter. It could be Instagram, like a static post or whatever. Yeah. And that person is not in there. They're just like trying to get a reshare or whatever. And it's like, why? Why are you doing that?
It just feels like such blatant like pandering of being like, I want more people to see this, which is also an interesting part of social media, because the whole point is to get a lot of people to see it, but you're also supposed to make it seem like you don't want that. It's supposed to be like flawless and effortless. So it's like against social media etiquette to do that, even though the point of social media is to do that.
Yeah, it's so weird. And also, like, people, what I get all the time is, like, on my TikTok account, people asking for money, and they will comment the same sentence on, like, 50 of my videos, like, I'm so hungry, send me money. That sounds so bad for me to say, but that's literally what they comment. And it's like, that's not how you go about it.
Yeah, well, it's also tough because it's not like in real life where you can like look someone dead in the eyes and be like, I'm so sorry, I don't have cash on me right now. It's like permanently embezzled on your video. And it's like, okay, am I either going to be the rude person and like delete this, or is it just going to like sit here, you know?
I mean, I let them sit, but they're not going to hear back from me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like my pet peeve is like kind of similar to that, but it's when people post carousels of like the same photo shoot, and it's all just like a picture of themselves, but in like a slightly different pose or angle, like 5 or 6 times. They're there. And I'm like, you couldn't, that one just feels so bizarre to me, of being like, did it need to be that many photos of the same outfit, the same location? Like, if you want to post pictures of all just yourself, cheers, power to you. Did we need the camera roll scroll of like when you're taking these photos, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, at least mix it up. I mean, if you've got multiple shoots, just pull from different shoots and then do a separate one with the different shoots. Let's go that way. Put one on you could do that whole Instagram story collage thing where it looks like it's your camera roll and there's like all 5 of them right there. Like, do something creative instead of just making me be like, is something else going to happen? Or is it this same photo, but like this one your eyes are looking to the left, this one your eyes are looking to the right? Like, yeah, exactly. And that kind of like goes into, I mean, maybe this is my opinion, not other people's, but it just feels so narcissistic sometimes. Like, social media in general feels super narcissistic to me. But like that with the multiple photos in the same shoot, but also like posting 100 stories a day and documenting every move that you make, it feels like desperate for validation. And to me, I feel like you should respect your followers enough. Like, give them a break. They don't need to see you every second of every day. You know what I mean? Like, you violated etiquette.
There is a point where it's like, do you have a journal? Do you have a pen? Like, is this maybe a journal thought? Or is it an Instagram story thought?
Right.
Literally. Or a friend with a listening ear. Like, there's some point where it's like, I love reading all those things. That is where I'm like hypocritical about it. It's like, I would never do that because I would think it was socially like improper to do so and like too invasive. But if someone's like posting like a 100 post story and it's like screenshots from their ex or something, I'm reading every single word.
Oh yeah, like give me the tea, but like
it.
if you're just walking your dog and like going to the coffee shop, I don't really care about that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're so mean. I feel like this podcast should be unhinged. Unhinged social.
We're really putting the Untamed in Untamed social. That's so
right. It's so bad. It's so bad. No, but you know who is unhinged is, I mean, this is like kind of old news now, but Lilah Gibney with the wedding. Mm-hmm. She makes me cringe. Did you watch her apology video?
I think I made it like a minute and a half in, and then I was like, oh, I don't know you or care. Yay.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things of like, if apparently from what I heard of the story of like Cover and Alex Warren's wedding was that they had signs about like not having your phones out or some kind of like the message was relayed like, yes, do not videotape this, do not post this before we do. And to just blatantly ignore that, I feel like is the key point here.
Yeah, and the best part about her apology was that there were two things that she said that stood out to me. The first was that she said, there's no wedding influencer rule book. And I just started laughing at her immediately. Like, girl, no, there's not an influencer wedding rule book. It's just like normal etiquette. It's not even social media etiquette. It's just normal etiquette. Like, yeah, I don't understand that. But then she also said that there were no signs. So I think she was so like into her phone and capturing anything and everything she could. She literally missed the sign and probably a lot more if I had to guess.
Well, it's also representative that maybe her connection to these people is not necessarily one of friendship, but is one of like digital networking. Like if you are literally looking towards this event as being like, I'm going to get such good content. I'm here with all my other content creators. I'm going to expand my reach, as opposed to being like, my friends are getting married. This is a beautiful ceremony. Like, depending on the outlook you're going towards it with, it'd be so much easier to disregard those etiquette rules. It's also, there's no etiquette handbook for anything ever. Unless you're like going to grandma's house and picking out a dusty old book that's like what side to put the silverware on the plate. You know what I mean?
Did your grandma have that?
Yes.
Did you read that? I feel like, what are those classes? Cotillion. You probably went to like Cotillion, didn't you? You did.
It wasn't properly Cotillion, but it was like dancing. It was like you learned how to be asked to dance and like what side to put your fork on and how to fold the napkin to indicate you're like ready for the next course.
Okay,
but see, we used to teach etiquette like that. Now we don't. Now you're supposed to be instilled that like through your social experience, and it doesn't always like that feels like such a like fickle comment to make of being like there's no influencer wedding handbook. There's no handbook ever. You're supposed to just pick these things up and like be kind in your heart and in your soul, and then you'd figure it out. Yeah.
Well. You want to? Okay, this is sidetrack. Here we go. This is why you don't want Anna and I on a podcast together. But speaking of cotillion. Okay, so growing up in elementary school, I was like the poor one, right? Like, and my family has zero couth. We're not going to etiquette classes, okay? And all of my friends, like, they were rich. They were going to cotillion, whatever. So there was like this final cotillion class, dance. I don't really know what you call it. Mm-hmm. And my boyfriend in the 4th grade,
very serious.
He went to cotillion, and the day of the final dance, his mom called my mom and was like, hey, would Laney like to come to this cotillion dance? And I think she probably felt bad for me. She was probably like, let's get her some experience here. So she invited me, and like my mom took me to like Belk or JCPenney or something and got me a dress, and I went, and I had never felt more uncomfortable in my life. All of these fourth grade kids are like sitting there properly with like their utensils in the right order, and they're tucking in their napkins, and I was just in there like, this is wild, where's the pizza?
Turn
like,
up the tunes. Let's get to dancing. Like,
why am I in a country club right now? But that was totally
so funny.
sidetracked. We're going on a different route there.
But I see the connection, because like in the society we live in now is not as rigid with etiquette and with those sort of social rules. Whereas like in the past, totally were. It was like, if you were going to be a part of like this society with this many eyes on you, you needed to behave a certain way. And it would be like specifically taught to you. And social media is like the Wild West in that sense, because it was like, here's this tool to be seen by millions of people. Behave however you want. And like,
and we'll
it's now
just
sort
make
of
up the rules as we go.
We'll make up the rules as we go. And now it's just sort of dictated by public opinion. And then there's even disagreements in that. Like, it's thrown all guide out the window, because you could do, like we were talking about in our last podcast, the craziest thing known to man, and some people will still be, like, rocking with it. Some people will still like it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not acquired etiquette or whatever.
Even if they're opening doors with their feet.
Exactly.
Like, is that etiquette? Do you consider that to be?
Yeah. Do we call rage bait the intentional breaking of social media etiquette?
Oh, okay, connection.
I went to college. I have my bachelor's degree. If you couldn't tell.
Oh my gosh. I like what you did there. If you haven't seen episode 1 of Untamed Social, go check it out. Just a shameless plug there.
We're both on it. It's pretty fun.
But also, so it's talking about Lilah Gibney and, you know, her like missing out on the wedding. And I'm pretty sure that the sign, what did you say that it said? It said something about like be present. Oh, it said be present. Yeah.
And then maybe in like smaller text, it was like put your phone away or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And what's funny is that like her whole apology, well, it wasn't an apology, first of all, but her big point was that like the way she shows love and gratitude is to create videos of her experiences. That's literally what her entire apology was.
That just does not seem authentic, even in the slightest. Like,
no.
If that's how you're trying to show love to people, then you would, like, tell them beforehand. That just seems so shallow. This is clearly about you wanting more money and clout and attention. Yeah. Like, don't try to say that was an act of love.
Because we all know it was selfish love. She also caught the bouquet. Did you see that?
I think I saw it in her video. I think that's the only part where I saw it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Alex and Cover sitting over there like, are you joking? How did she get this? Oh my gosh. Well,
it's also because like wedding etiquette is already its whole thing, and then you start having influencers getting married, and it's like, okay, everyone who's going to come also has a social media following. We all have the same priorities at the end of this day. But, like, because it is our day, we should be able to set that boundary and, like, trust that our friends... I think that's the weirdest thing about it, is, like, when it comes to so many other parts of relationship boundaries and etiquette and things like that, you trust the people around you to follow it unless something's, like, going on in the background, you know? Like, if you took all your friends to dinner and one of them started acting really crazy, you'd be like, are you okay? It's check-in time. And I feel like when you break social media etiquette... it's immediately defensive, being like, I can do what I want on my social media page. Like,
1,000%.
There's usually like there's a different kind of backlash than to someone doing something in real life that breaks etiquette and breaks your social boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, that's so true on so many levels. Like, I literally think about my cousin's social media all the time. I love her to death. And it's so entertaining, but she doesn't care at all. And every family function that she goes to, she's recording everything the entire time. And I literally think to myself all the time, you are so not present and you're missing out on so much. And she's like, no, I'm going to rewatch it. Yeah. She's like, I'm going to watch it later.
I have known one person to actually watch it later, and it was my friend who was really obsessed with this band in high school, and she got to go to the concert, and she made her dad film the entire concert on her iPad. And then for her birthday, we watched the whole concert. They projected it on a screen in the backyard, and we watched the whole thing filmed by her dad on the iPad for the whole concert.
Like shaking.
I don't even remember.
Terrible quality.
No, I don't even remember, like, the details of what the quality of it looked like, because I think we were all, like, talking over it anyway. But I was like, man, you see everyone with, like, their phones out at concerts, and, like, I finally know someone who got the value out of it they wanted.
Okay, but what concert was it?
It was 21 Pilots.
What?
It was 21 Pilots. You know who 21 Pilots are.
Anna, I'm about 14 years older than you.
That doesn't matter. You know who Fall Out Boy is?
Yeah.
You know who Panic at the Disco is?
For sure.
Then you know who 21 Pilots are. It's spelled like
maybe
top.
I know a song.
You would know a song. And I'm not about to start singing. So you can Google that after.
We're not going that Untamed today. Darn.
You're like, come on, let's hear it.
Okay, let's do something fun. Let's read some Am I the Asshole posts to see if social media etiquette was broken or not. I gotta turn off my heater though, because I'm sweating.
You go do that. We can flash.
Okay. I'm good now.
We can flash it up on the screen so you guys can just read it for yourself. But basically, the gist of it was that there's a 16-year-old boy and his parents were influencers. Not like huge and famous, probably ones you wouldn't know. He doesn't name them. But they were kind of not being entirely truthful about their lives, which you could expect from... I expect that of all influencers at this point. But he then was feeling kind of frustrated about this, especially because the things they were posting were about like money and how much money they had, but that wasn't entirely accurate. And so one day he makes a TikTok on his own personal page being like, look, this is that one $400 sweater that my mom has and is posting on social media. But like, cause she bought this, here's what I got for Christmas. And it was like a kid's art set or something. And so he made this TikTok, like kind of quote unquote exposing him on his really small, like he wasn't an influencer himself, didn't think it was going to get traction, but then maybe apparently it did. And that his family was really mad and upset at him. So he made this Reddit post being like, am I the asshole for doing that? And everyone's been like, no, but I think it brings up the question of being like, what is appropriate in terms of interpersonal conflict and things like that to bring to the internet, like exposing cancel culture kind of things. Like where do you draw that line between like what's appropriate? When is that actually useful to bring to the internet? And when is that like selfishness? Like when you like need that validation from strangers because you're not getting it in your real life.
Yeah. I feel like, to me, it would be acceptable for him to do that if he had, like you said, if he had that conversation with his parents beforehand and like tried to get through to them what he was feeling and nothing came about, then I would say, go for it, expose them. But I'm also crazy wild.
I like have conflicting feelings about it because I'm like, one, I feel like children especially, like, if they're being put in a situation that they think is unfair, they'll tell the grocery clerk about it. You know, like kids don't care who they tell. So I couldn't hold like a child to that expectation. But say this was like between two adults and it was something in like small and petty like that. That feels like a huge breaking of your real life social etiquette. And like, is that worth it for like to damage that relationship you have? Because I feel like if I ever was in that situation and any of my close personal friends mentioned anything about like in depth about like what our relationship was like and like the negatives and the highs and the lows, I would feel so hurt and so vulnerable, and I probably would never speak to that person again. And so it's like, is that a line of etiquette that we draw of being like, you can cross this line, you will get the validation you're looking for, but it comes at the cost of probably your real life relationships.
Losing. Well, like, that's my thing. I'm like, him doing this, he had to know it was going to tick them off And
Yeah.
that he was going to risk a lot by doing that. It sounds like it was worth it for him. Like he was like, I don't care.
Yeah. Well,
I'm doing
that's
it.
also isn't that what being 16 is about? Is like not thinking that decision will be a big deal, and then it happens and you're like, screw it, I'm staying at my aunt's house, you know? Like, it's not the worst at that like lower level, but I think it just brings up that interesting, like we see now with like the Risa Tisa, like Who the F Did I Marry series. There was literally one today about like Liv and Sedona from TikTok where she just like kind of exposed their entire relationship, and like I eat it up every time. I want to know.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. But then it is also like, I don't know, I feel like that kind of stuff is always put under this umbrella of people deserve to know like who you are behind the scenes. Like people, we should be exposing these things. We should be bringing them to light. And my question is, should we?
Should we? Should we though?
I like it for my entertainment. Am I necessarily making my decisions on who I think is a moral person or not based on like exposing part 1 series?
Yeah. Well, that's really funny that you said that because, okay, this is like, again, going a different route, but I've been doing a Bible study recently about covering people's shame. And it has been on my mind so much that like we as humans should be covering people's shame. And I feel like with social media, it is the complete opposite. We are all about exposing shame.
Yeah. And I see it having use in some instances, like the Me Too movement. Do it. Free for all. But then I also see it in other segments of being like, especially at like smaller scales, I'm like, you're just throwing away like relationship you have with someone. Like you're just bringing things out into open. And like, I don't know, I feel so conflicted about it because, like, I want to know, clearly this person sounds like a bad person, so you wouldn't care what this might mean for their status or implications, but, like, I, as a human being, like, could never feel comfortable doing something like that. Ever, ever, ever.
Well, I'm glad I have you on my side as a friend. And I promise to treat you the same way.
I'm going to get on my TikTok tomorrow and be like, who the F did I start working for? Laney Goff edition.
And then everything you expose, people are going to be like, oh my God, actually we expected that of her. Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like even though you and I have zero etiquette together, we did a great job on this podcast today.
Wrapped it up in a nice little bow, I think.
I think so too. And I had a lot of fun with you, and I feel like I don't know who we're going to be with next time. But they have a lot to measure up to. I know.
We're raising the bar consistently.
They're going to watch this podcast and be like, y'all are the worst.
They're like, guys, we trust to do with this.
Anyways, everyone just needs to keep in mind that there is social media etiquette at the end of the day. And maybe you should question whether or not you're crossing that line or not.
And talk to your friends about like what they think social media etiquette is and what you think social media etiquette is. Because I think if you're around people who are on the same page with that, you're golden. You all have the same expectation. It's when you have people with differing opinions on what's proper and what isn't to do on social media, then you start to get into just a muddy area.
And you have lasting consequences, for sure.
The internet is forever. The internet is forever.
At least that's what Gen Z learned. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.